In today's video, we have 4 individuals who turned a miracle into a nightmare. We start with Christopher and Carly Easey. Their daughter, Eleanor, was 14 weeks old, and she was found by pathologists to have sustained a catastrophic brain injury consistent with having been shaken. Chris Easey was a 31-year-old of Little Thetford in Cambridgeshire. He claimed that he dropped Eleanor on her head, having been distracted by his barking dogs. What Chris could not explain was Eleanor's 31 rib fractures. 31! Wow! It was claimed the girl's mother, Carly Easey, didn't know that her husband was injuring their baby and had done so on multiple occasions. Both 36-year-old Carly of Suffolk and Christopher were charged with child cruelty. Eleanor died from a catastrophic brain injury 2 days after being admitted to hospital on December 18, 2019, after paramedics were called to the family home at Morton-on-the-Hill. A scan showed she had a significant head injury and recent bleeding between her skull and brain. She was later transferred from hospital in Norwich to Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge, where doctors confirmed she had suffered a brain injury. She died on December 20th, 2019. Tests showed Eleanor had suffered bleeds to her brain on 3 separate occasions, the most recent within 48 hours of her being admitted to hospital. A Home Office post-mortem examination established that the cause of her death was a head injury. An earlier court hearing was told that the couple were being monitored by social services. Hospital staff had earlier raised safeguarding fears about Eleanor over concerns that Mrs. Easey had concealed her pregnancy. Concealed her pregnancy? What does that even mean? She hid it? She was lying about it? How do you lie about that? They also feared that she was not bonding normally with her baby in the days after her birth at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Norfolk. Staff noticed that she was anxious about coping with the demands of being a parent and were concerned that she did not want her baby to be brought to her bedside, leaving bottle feeding up to staff. Christopher also lied to a midwife that he was a vet when he really was a cattle stockman. The hospital staff said a picture appeared of a couple who would only accept what they wanted to accept and had a worrying tendency to live their own self-deluded way. Carly declined mental health treatment when she was released from hospital on October 18th, 2019, and appeared to want to go back to her life before. In other words, it seems she did not want the baby. In this case, I excuse her a little bit because postpartum, well, it's severe as you know. Eleanor remained in neonatal intensive care, but staff noted that her parents did not visit her very much, and that in itself is disgraceful, because when a newborn has come, the support system is essential. I have become a father again. My daughter was born 3 weeks ago, I think. 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? We've had family all over, because it takes a village to raise a kid. Her parents should take some responsibility, in my opinion. Hospital staff referred the family to social services as a safeguarding case due to Carly having a concealed pregnancy. Neither parent attended a meeting with a health visitor at the hospital on September 21st, 2019. Christopher claimed later in a phone call how annoying and unnecessary it was for social services to be involved in the family at all. Eleanor was said to be in a healthy condition before she was allowed home on September 26, 2019. Norfolk County Council social worker Faye Kimber visited a couple later the same day and noted little communication or interaction between them and Eleanor. And again, that is disgraceful because the initial stages of a newborn, holding the baby on your chest, interaction, looking at the baby, is essential for the baby's survival. What do you mean? Little or no interaction. What kind of parents were these? A health visitor noted on several occasions that Eleanor had red marks and scratches on her face, but Carly insisted the injuries were caused by her baby's fingernails. She also blamed a bruise on her daughter's cheek on the poorly fitting strap of her car seat when they had driven down a bumpy road. Now, I've actually never heard that before. I have 2 kids, right? And as you know, when a newborn is born, when you leave the hospital, here in America anyway, they have to inspect the car seat and make sure it meets the legal requirements, right? I don't know anyone who has ever had a poorly fitted car seat. Well, for a newborn anyway. How shameful is this? You see, as a result of the injury, the couple were told to take Eleanor to the GP, as is the procedure for an injury in a non mobile baby. The couple took her the next day to the surgery in Norfolk, where the GP found a second bruise behind her right ear. Eleanor was then taken to the pediatric ward at Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where she was examined by 3 doctors and a staff nurse and found 2 marks on her jaws and 2 near her ears. Why would there be marks on her jaws? Eh? The couple once again explained that the injuries had been caused by her slipping in the outsize car seat, and the doctors accepted that this story was plausible. What? As a doctor, right? You go through how long of medical school? 5 years? 10 years? $500,000 down the drain for you to be this stupid? Huh? Christopher was said to have explained away a third set of injuries when his daughter was found to have a yellowish bruise to her hairline. He told his employer that it was caused by a dog jumping up at Eleanor's car seat at a pet store when he was buying a dog cage. But police recovered CCTV images of him going to the store which showed no evidence of a dog jumping. Now, going back to the day she was taken to the hospital, Christopher drove his wife to work on the afternoon of December 18, claiming that he had Eleanor with him in his car. But during the return home, he claimed he had to make an emergency stop when a car pulled out in front of him, meaning Eleanor's head was jerked back in the car seat. Christopher claimed that he tried to perform CPR on his daughter at his home after he dropped her. Paramedics were called at 8:25 p.m. on December the 18th to report that Eleanor was struggling to breathe. They found her pale, floppy, and lethargic, with her eyes half open, a low heart rate, and erratic breathing. Doctors ruled she had a catastrophic brain injury which was incompatible with life, and her life support was withdrawn 2 days later. Christopher claimed he called an ambulance and told paramedics on the way to the hospital that he was used to performing CPR on cows, but he had never done it on a human. In later interviews with police, he claimed that he may have been over vigorous when doing chest compressions on her. Carly also told officers about how she used to bounce around her daughter in a horse game which she seemed to enjoy. But police had spoken to other people who had expressed concerns about the way the couple looked after their daughter, saying it was wholly inappropriate for a baby of her age and vulnerability. Now, during the trial, a prosecutor said that a post-mortem examination recorded that Eleanor was poorly nourished, had a prominent ribcage, and reduced muscle bulk in her limbs. The judge said both parents had at times given her diluted squash to drink instead of milk, and described it as wholly inappropriate that she was given a lick of a custard cream biscuit. He said both parents had abandoned Eleanor on at least one occasion for a significant time. Elizabeth Marsh, who was the lawyer for Carly, said Eleanor was killed through no action or inaction by her mother. She feels extremely guilty for failing to protect her baby from the man who deceived her. Sally O'Neill was Christopher's lawyer. He said he will carry to his grave the knowledge what he did caused the injuries to his baby daughter. She described him as a very inexperienced father. Now, Christopher himself was found not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter after more than 20 hours of deliberations. Christopher looked straight ahead and showed no emotion when he was sentenced, although his mother was visibly upset in the public gallery. The Honourable Mr. Justice Murray, who adjourned the case for sentencing, told Christopher, "You have been found guilty of the manslaughter of Eleanor Easey, and you have also been found guilty of cruelty. In view of the verdict, and in light of the seriousness and basis on which you were found guilty of manslaughter, I am remanding you in custody to await sentencing." Christopher was jailed for 14 years. As for Carly, she was sentenced to a 12-month community order with requirements to take part in a specified program of activities. Now, what's also interesting in this case, to put it into perspective for you, Christopher's brother Matthew, he pled guilty to assault following a domestic incident in 2021. You see, the Crown Court was told that the incident had occurred while Matthew was facing very difficult times. You may ask, what were these difficult times? Well, he, in the case of his brother Christopher, had to give evidence against Christopher. Matthew appeared before the court to face a trial of over 6 allegations. Prosecutors told the court that they were domestic in nature, but that following discussions with the victim, it had been deemed acceptable for a single charge to be put to him. Matthew admitted the offense of assault by. The court was told that the relationship with his partner had been quite a toxic one and that they were no longer together. In fact, during Christopher's trial, Matthew appeared as a witness and admitted that his younger brother had a short temper and goes off right at the top end. I mention Matthew's case because it's clear that being abusive runs in the family. And in my opinion, as I conclude on this case before I move on to the next one, I think Christopher, right, made up the lie about crashing into another car because there was no car incident, and he just did not want the baby. He didn't care. He didn't care for the mother, and he just abused the baby. Anytime he looked at the baby, he felt annoyed, frustrated, because he wanted to go out, live his life. He saw himself as an individual, or as I call him, a classless bastard. Now we move on to the case of baby Malik. A mother a newborn baby to death just 7 weeks after social workers drew up a safety plan to protect him. Elodie Goncalves, who was 33, was accused of leaving her defenseless son Malik with fatal brain injuries. The Crown Court heard how paramedics tried in vain to revive 12-week-old Malik before declaring him dead on August 19, 2020 in Essex. The prosecutor, Kareem Khalil, said concerns about Elodie were raised before her son was born due to her mental health and known problems with drugs and alcohol. Her issues led to a child protection conference lasting several hours in May 2020, when an unborn baby protection plan was drawn up. Malik was allowed to remain with Elodie after his birth on June 1, 2020, and he was returned to live with her and Muretala Ole Imam, who at the time was believed to be his father. The court heard how police were called on the 24th of June 2020 by a neighbor who believed that Elodie was heavily intoxicated and known to have recently given birth. The prosecutor said that the call was made after Elodie had knocked on a neighbor's door asking for police to be called as her mobile phone had been stolen. 2 officers arrived to find her flat in darkness with the front door open, and Elodie in a state of undress and handling her baby in an erratic way and unsafe manner. The father was not at the flat at the time, but it was agreed that Malik could be left with him and social services were contacted. Elodie was arrested on suspicion of child neglect and detained overnight, but it was later decided that no action should be taken against her. The following day, on June the 25th, a social worker held a meeting with the couple, and the father said he wanted to be a main carer for the baby together with the mother. A safety plan was drawn up at the meeting when it was agreed that Elodie would no longer drink alcohol and would not be left alone with her baby. But on August the 10th, the plan was relaxed after another meeting to allow the father to have up to 2 hours respite a day from his child caring duties. The jury was told how a police officer who lived in the same block of flats as Elodie and Muritala had become concerned as it was obvious to him that they were smoking cannabis in their home. The off-duty officer heard her outside shouting, "Don't leave me! Don't leave me! You can't leave me!" in the early hours of August 19th, when he assumed that she was yelling at Muritala. Elodie dialed 999 to call police at 10 a.m. on August 19th to report a child in urgent need of medical assistance. She was transferred to ambulance controllers and said, "It's my baby. My baby has gone. He has stopped. He has gone. My son is dead. He's not moving." Elodie claimed during her call that somebody had come into her home through an open window and took her baby's life. She claimed that she had gone to sleep, leaving her son in her cot, and had woken up to find him lifeless. She admitted not seeing what had happened, as she added, "He is not breathing, he is cold." What kind of egregious lie is that? "Oh, sorry, Your Honor, I was washing the dishes, the window was open, some madman came in and he murdered my child." What? When she was given guidance about how to give compressions, she insisted that she was a healthcare professional and had already tried to resuscitate him without success. The court heard how she had assaulted the first paramedic on the scene as he tried to give CPR to her son who was already showing signs of rigor mortis. Elodie claimed at the scene that she had fed her son earlier in the morning and gone back to bed before getting up at 9:50 a.m. and finding him not moving. Police arrived and noted a smell of alcohol. She told an officer, "The devil is after me." Police then found empty wine bottles inside the flat and the communal gardens outside after Malik was taken to the Princess Alexandra Hospital in Harlow. Muratalla returned to the flat and was in shock after police told him that Malik had died. He and Elodie were taken to the hospital where she was asked to provide blood and urine samples. Now, her blood sample, taken at around 2 p.m., showed she would have been around 1.5 times the legal alcohol limit for driving at the time she made the 999 call 4 hours earlier. But the urine test came back as negative, prompting police to review body cam footage which showed Elodie going into a toilet with Muratalla to give the sample. It was later tested and found to contain DNA from both of them. It was said that urine from Muratalla had been combined in the sample to water it down, as it was a clear effort to thwart the investigation. However, the prosecutor also revealed that DNA tests had showed Muratalla was not the father of Malik. Elodie herself denied murder. She also denied an alternative charge of causing the death of a child, cruelty to a child, and assaulting a paramedic. Muratalla himself denied allowing cruelty to a child. He and Elodie also jointly denied a charge of intending to pervert the course of justice, as in that drug sample. Post-mortems concluded that Malik died of a severe head injury which most likely involved a shaking action to his head with some forceful impacting of the head on a hard surface. The judge said the Crown's case is that his mother is responsible for taking his life. We say she assaulted him, apparently by shaking him and striking his head against one or more hard surfaces, causing multiple fractures and, most importantly, traumatic brain injuries. The judge continued, those assaults on a defenseless baby resulted in fatal injuries to his brain and the brain stem. Malik was also found to have rib fractures, which tests showed had happened prior to his death, meaning they were not caused by the CPR attempts. There were also injuries to his wrists, which were indicative of being grabbed or gripped. The judge said it was clear that the degree of force used on him was far in excess of normal or even rough handling. Now, Elodie herself was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 17 years. She was jailed for the murder of her son Malik when she appeared at Chelmsford Crown Court. At the same hearing, her partner, Muratalla, was jailed for 10 years for allowing the baby's death. Expert evidence at the trial confirmed that his injuries were more than likely non-accidental, the majority of which were caused between 2 and 12 hours prior to his death. The baby's left wrist was fractured 3 to 6 days prior to death. Both Elodie and Muratalla denied responsibility for Malik's death and attempted to pervert the course of justice. In fact, Elodie was interviewed by detectives multiple times over an 18-month period. Throughout the interviews, she continued to deny responsibility for Malik's death, going as far as to blame an intruder. Muratalla told the investigating team during interviews that although he wasn't present at the time of Malik's death, he was distraught and loved his son. The judge added that Elodie put her own selfish interests above those of a baby. Detective Chief Inspector Stuart Trust, who led the investigation, said at the time of conviction, "The death of a young child is and will always be immensely tragic, and our thoughts remain with Malik's wider family at this difficult time. Malik died at the hands of those who should have cared for him most. This lengthy, sensitive investigation was difficult for all those involved, but I am proud that everyone acted with determined professionalism and focused on what really mattered, securing justice for the death of their defenseless baby son." So to conclude on both stories, Chris and Carly, they just did not want the baby. I actually think, genuinely, and I mean this purely based on a psychological evaluation, because, I've made hundreds of YouTube videos, I have analyzed hundreds of suspects. I just think they were dumb. Generally, I think these people were so fucking stupid, right? That the I mean, the fact that they gave the baby a juice instead of milk, it's like, bruv, that's in newborn 101. You know what I mean? So I put that case to stupidity. As for the case of Elodie and Muratala, I think it was just the drugs and the alcohol. They hated their lives and whatever escape they needed, right? They had no purpose, they couldn't make sense of reality, they were drinking all the time, or at least she was drinking all the time. I think most of the abuse that Malik faced was when she was drunk and she didn't realize what she was doing. Either way, right? I don't know about the 10 years for Muratala because he wasn't there, but he knew the child was being abused, so, I mean, he's not stupid, he should have told the police. So either way, may they all, at the very least, serve the sentences they were given. No early release. If you ask me, bruv, put him in jail, throw away the key. Thank you for watching.